want a ticket straight to them pearly gates.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're going to talk about, once again, Bandai Namco being accused of being... I feel like this conversation has been happening once a year, sometimes twice a year, and Tekken gets dragged into it. Something that's been heavily scrutinized since the start of Tekken 8 is the way that the characters look. Now, this isn't exclusively a Tekken thing. You know, Street Fighter has this same issue, but it's not really an issue. It's just something about like designing the character. This is what developers talk about. Like when they're bringing back an iconic character and they're trying to make adjustments to the outfits or the way that the character look, it's a very stressful process because if you do it wrong, you could lose the whole thing with the character. And with the Tekken 8, them going from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5, they said that they struggled a lot trying to make the characters look like themselves, with Jin, with Steve in his face. And you can even talk about the female characters and their body proportions. Now, a lot of people feel like the reason why the characters look so bulky, look so blocky, is because of woke. And you see this accusation be thrown at Tekken over and over and over again. And one thing that I think easily dispels this whole argument is what Harada did in update 2.05. This was labeled by the players as the Gooner update, and it basically was an entire update dedicated to gooning the characters. You can see the subtle shift here where you had before the update in 4.0 and then you had in 5.0. I made a whole video talking about the new jiggle physics and everything there, and you have this other image as well where they showed off Asuka. Now, the thing about this update as well is that Harada said that more stuff is coming. They haven't did anything yet. Whether or not they'll do something in season 3, only time will tell, but the fact that they are trying to make their female characters look more feminine. We know they also did the same thing with Mizuru, where they changed her face at the request of players. I don't think that you can say that they are woke or they are doing this for some nefarious reason. I think that the Tekken developers themselves have shown that they are trying to make characters that they personally like. And when you see Harada say these things in the past, it's not just talk at this point, because we see the game starting to reflect this. Now, what I also will say before we dive deep into this conversation, there are some players who are also pushing for the characters to look better, and they're not doing it from like a political way. Like you have very respected people like Dell also participating in this conversation and critiquing the way that characters look and just talking about how they could be better. So it's not all driven by this like political garbage. There's some people who are just saying like, hey, our characters looked really cool in the past. What's going on? Can you do something to change that? And sometimes the developers are like, yes, you're right, we'll fix it. Now, what's happening very recently is this YouTuber here. I don't know who this person is. I just seen the Twitter posts. Some of them were sent to me and I did a little bit of research, but this person is going very hard on Bandai Namco right now for censoring their video games, Tekken 8 being one of them, but also a lot of anime games. You know, Bandai Namco is the king of anime. Some of the biggest anime IPs on the planet they hold the exclusive rights to, and they're the only ones who can greenlight a video game, a collab, or something like that to be made. So that makes them a very powerful company. I believe in Japan alone, they are in the big three behind Nintendo and Sony, the people who make the consoles. Now, this person says Bandai Namco is the reason anime and games associated with them are being censored to the ground. A senior localization manager admitted to forcing Japanese creators to point a self-censorship to get the product out. Another tweet says, did some digging and found some evidence of what's going on with anime and gaming censorship from Bandai Namco properties. Frank Ginty, the senior localization manager at Bandai Namco, attributes some changes to the Me Too movement and that they need to tell Japanese game developers to dress their heroines. And you can see this, I believe to be a news article. Localizers admit to proactively censoring games for Western audiences. And you can see another screenshot here where he's just citing what I already read. Another tweet here says localization working to translate Code Vein 2 has changed the meaning of the script to insert politics once again. It also came out that Bandai Namco had the game censor outfits that were uncensored in Code Vein 1. Bandai Namco was also accused of censoring One Punch Man Season 3. Now, to dive a little deeper into this argument of what Bandai Namco may or may not be doing, these are all allegations. You can see it starts off with this person here, Grums. On Twitter, this guy is very political. I really don't care about that. I'm just trying to highlight the Bandai Namco side of it, get to the facts of what's really happening. But this person right now is going off for what they believe to be censoring the characters. You have this screenshot here where someone said, stop pretending the original game lets you see up the skirts of the characters. And then you have a community note where it says the original does in fact allow you to see up the skirts of the characters. And you have screenshots here with proof of that. And for the players who are fighting very hard for this on Twitter right now, they just feel it's once again more evidence of Bandai Namco censoring games. Now, the reason why some people are very against censoring is because they feel like it is going against the art style, it's going against the art style, it's going against what the developer wants. You have an overhanging corporation telling the game studio what to do. And in situations like that where they're not allowed to make the product how they want, it's just not an environment you want with gaming. Now, as for the people who are doing it to score political points, because there's a lot of that going on with Twitter, I think that social media and the way that is structured incentivize those guys to do so, and that conversation will never truly stop. I think there is times where corporations go too far in one side or the other, and it is right for the players to kind of hold that line. But at the same time, you do have a lot of bad actors and grifters just muddying the water and doing things for profit. We can look back into the past where we received a statement from Harada about how Bandai Namco is affecting his game. Harada has been someone who's been very outspoken about Bandai Namco putting pressures on them to at least monetize their game, milk their game. He spoke in the past in interviews about how it was a very frustrating process, and he even joked about throwing some of the executives off a volcano, you know, the classic Tekken trend. But when it comes to censorship, this is what Harada said in response to this post. The post itself says, in case you haven't been paying attention to what's going on in the Japanese gaming market lately. And it's this cut together picture that says Bandai Namco localization team admits that they order Japanese devs to censor their female character designs. We tell them that the cleavage is a bit too exposed or the skirts is a bit too short. And they said other things that they tell them to adjust is things like the hair, the gender, cultural values, and to make it a little bit more accessible. Now, when Harada got wind of this, he said, I myself never heard of these names, and the designs are all based on our own decisions. That is also clear if you read the original article and look at Tekken 8. We may weigh the community standards against what we want to express, but we do not base our standards on a following or not following any specifics. And once again, I think with what we talked about at the beginning of this video with what they did during season 2, Harada kind of proved that. Once again, you have a tweet from Dell where he says Harada ignores this propaganda. Harada says, I'm not responding to the propaganda, I'm just asserting the process we actually follow in response to false perceptions and misleading conveyances. In the light of past assertions, of course past assertions can be updated and current ones changed. So this is kind of just Tekken's side of it, right? Harada, of course, left the company, but we saw that Nakatsu is very hands-on with creating some of the newest female characters like Lydia, Reina, and I would guess he had a big role in making Marizu as well, which for a lot of players is gooned out. For me, not gooned enough, but my standards for gooning is much higher than most. But even with that being said, Tekken seems to be doing their own thing. Now, as for Bandai Namco and their other games, who knows what's truly going on there?